And welcome everybody to TNM Unplugged and Zoran Todorovic.space interconnected podcast. We are so happy you're back with us today to elevate your heart, to elevate your soul, to elevate your mind to the next level of itself, to really dive into the space of profound inspiration, presence, today also achievement, and to really learn alongside this wonderful podcast that we are creating and presenting for you. And today we have a wonderful guest and collaborator all the way from California. You know that we're European based, but global reach. Lisha Davidovits. She is an amazing coach. She has been working mainly with high achieving millennials to really help them become the best possible versions of themselves. You know, she worked to help them say goodbye to their self-doubts, to eliminate limiting beliefs, to make these kind of little knots in the stomach disappear, and to really get them to experience success, balance in life they really deserve. You know, she is a person who accelerates success in others, but really pointing them into the right direction and coaching them to become the best possible versions of themselves. Working with Lisha, many good experiences. You will receive confidence. You will become much more confident in your reality. You will really understand your core values. You will have a very clear vision and what really guides your achievement and your accomplishment in your life. Then, as in every coaching situation, you will be able to accelerate to the next level of yourself. You will be stronger and then also authentic. And then you will have this sense of alignment and stronger mental fitness. And we really need that nowadays. We all need to be strong, powerful, collected, confident to persevere to this time of challenges right now. She's a wonderful collaborator. She's positive, professional, and, a great coach. So, Lisha, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the privilege of being part of the podcast and part of the TNM group. It's so exciting. And thank you for the beautiful introduction. That was so nice and generous. And I'm like, wow. And, hearing all of that, I'm so passionate about the work that I do. And I'm like, yes, I do that. Yes, I get those results. And yes, it's great.
I know, and, your personality and your character and charisma shows up, and that's the reason why I loved inviting you to this podcast today. So let's dive into this. How do you help high achieving millennials become the best possible version of themselves? I'm just going to open up the field right now, and then we're going to dive into more specific conversation. So where would you like to start with that?
Yeah. So, we all are at a certain point in who we are becoming, and we all have blind spots. And so often it takes something like coaching or really powerful conversations to know what those blind spots are, to know what's holding us back from really stepping into who we want to be, seeing who we could be that we maybe didn't even realize was within us. And so I help them to recognize what it is and who they are now, who they want to be, and then really start to pull back the layers on what is that deeper potential. What are some of the challenges going on? What happens if those challenges are no longer present? How do you get stuck in your own head? How do you get in your own way? And what happens when we start to remove some of that, start to shift, and are able to come into more of that potential to, quiet that inner judge of like, am I ever going to be good enough? Am I ever going to be able to have this or get this, or that judge of self, judge of others, judge of situations, especially with the pandemic? Oh, this is terrible. My job is miserable. How are things going to get better with this pandemic? And so, especially for people that are ambitious, they see, sometimes obstacles. And when we start to shift and say, okay, how could this be a gift or opportunity? Or what power do you have within yourself to be able to navigate this in a way that's going to help you be actually even more successful? Then all of a sudden, that's when the fire starts to come up and we start fanning the flames, and they start to realize, wow, there's a whole different perspective. And it's so powerful. I love it with clients where they come into a session with one perspective, and through the session, they're all of a sudden able to see a different perspective. And it's like a door has opened, and they're like, that's where I've been wanting to go. I just, the door was closed. I didn't even see what was there. And now that I see it, and then they start to explore it, they're like, wow, like, yeah, this is what I want. And then we talk about, okay, what's next in getting there and getting to that and moving away from one perspective and into another is going to be much more aligned with who you are, who you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, it's super exciting, especially as you mentioned with high achievers. And I say we because you and I also have that tendency of like pushing ourselves and like, oh, okay, I did this. What's next? It's always like, what's next? Okay, got that gold star. What's next? This isn't enough. I need to do even more and not even like really realizing what we've accomplished. And so it's that push, push, push that creates even more stress and more pressure on ourselves. And then that changes who we are, how we show up in life. So being able to quiet that helps people be even more successful because then they're approaching situations with a calmness, with a clarity, with a focus, rather than fear of failure. It's looking at possibility, and that changes everything.
And I know that one of your kind of area of expertise and what you really feel passionate about is this whole mental fitness, right? Being able to be mentally fit. Can you please, for me, for audience, describe how do you perceive mental fitness and why is that so important right now today and what we can do to become fit mentally?
Yeah. Yeah. So for that, I'll give an example. As someone who has, my own business and is a very high achiever, I have a tendency to, push myself where it's like, okay, I got this client. That's great. And once I got, my first client, then I'm like, okay, well, one's not enough. I need more. How can I get even more? And I need it, it's more, more, more. I also have a husband and two young children. And so, I was finding I was so tightly wound and I've always been tightly wound. And I just figured like, hey, you know what? I'm a type A person. But I didn't like that would sometimes lead me to have a short fuse, be the end of the day. And I'd been pushing myself with work. And then something, there was a mishap with the kids. And I'd be like, what's going on? Why did this happen? And, like, that's not who I want to be as a parent. And so the more that I was realizing, like, I'm just not showing up as who I want to be. There's what we're doing and who we're being. And who I was being was not in alignment with what I wanted because I was doing. And that just, started to wear on me. And I was like, I want to learn more. Okay, I want to learn more about how to be more patient and calm and collected. So I read and, I practiced and I have a degree in psychology and I've done all sorts of programs and classes and learnings and talking. And I'm very, insightful about myself. It was never enough. I was never getting to the point where I'm like, this is who I want to be. Like in those commercials where, you see someone and things are going crazy and they're just like gliding along. It's ease and flow. Don't worry, I got it. Oh, this happens. No problem. They're just cruising through, even keeled. I'm like, I want to be that person. How can I be that person? Well, I couldn't because I'm like this. I mean, when you're like tense and, uptight, you can't be that gliding person. And so then a couple of years ago, I discovered positive intelligence. And positive intelligence was founded by Shirzad Chamine, who's a Stanford lecturer, New York Times bestselling author of the book Positive Intelligence. And that is around mental fitness and strengthening mental fitness. And that was the missing key for me. As much as I wanted to quiet that drive, that intensity, I just didn't have the mental fitness. It's like someone who trains and wants to climb a mountain and learns everything that they need to do. And they get all of the gear and they're like, I'm ready to climb that mountain. If they don't have strong enough muscles to get them up that mountain, all of that other work is going to be for very little. It will get them a little bit closer, but not to the top. They also need that physical strength. So it's the same thing with mental fitness. You can learn, you can have insights, you can have desire. You also need mental strength. And there are 3 core mental muscles for strengthening mental fitness. So you're actually strengthening your mental muscles just like you would strengthen your physical muscles. So as I learned about that, and as I put things into practice to strengthen my mental muscles, there was a complete transformation because I was noticing as soon as I was getting triggered and when the mental muscles got stronger, I was able to catch it sooner and shift faster. So those triggers had a much looser grip on me. I noticed, oh, there's my hyperachiever telling me I need to squeeze in one more thing. And I would say like, no, there's negative energy and emotion. That's a sign that this is one of my saboteurs. My saboteurs, the hyperachiever, stickler, and the pleaser. Those are, a few of the saboteurs that Shirzad defines. then I would notice, hey, this is happening, label it, and then shift. And that shift is much calmer place. It's a different region of the brain where there's access to patience, positivity, compassion, curiosity, and laser focus. So there's actually, it's research based. There's neurological, content behind it in the whole thing of being able to like notice, okay, I'm in saboteur mode. That's survivor brain, fight, flight. There's a sense of urgency. There's negative emotion, shame, guilt, frustration, anxiety. That's all saboteur driven. That opposite, which is on a totally different region of the brain, the more the right side, is sage. And so that shift has made a huge difference in me not getting triggered and me staying calmer, being that person where I'm just gliding through and I'm like, hey, this happened. In the past, I would have totally gotten hijacked by this. And now I'm like, okay, this happens, and able to move through it. And as I've worked with clients, it's been really, really transformational for them too, because things that they weren't able to work through where they were getting stuck, now they've told me like, hey, this happened. And today I was actually able to handle it so much differently than I've ever been able to. And it's the way that I've been wanting to. It's untapped potential that people know that they have, but it's like there's this thing that's in the way and they can't get through it because they don't have the muscle. That muscle is the key factor in being able to move through it with ease and flow.
So if you were to kind of look into that muscle and help us understand, how do you build that muscle? Because I love this analogy that you shared. It's like same with any other muscle, going to gym, exercising, stretching, doing yoga, giving it attention and intention so you can really build it up consciously with mindfulness. So how would you do it?
Yeah. So what Shirzad calls it are PQ reps, positive intelligence quotient, PQ, like EQ. And so these repetitions, they quiet the brain by bringing you into the present, quiet the body. And they're very simple. They can be done in it's like each one is 10 seconds. And we can go through together if you'd like a series of them. You can see. Okay, so great. So first, and because I know there are listeners for this, so I invite all the listeners to do it with us. So first, kind of get yourself into a point. Think of something that's stressing you out. So let's start in saboteurs. Like what's creating tension or stress in you right now? Think about that for a moment. Feel that energy of, oh gosh, this is happening, or I need to do this, or this is coming up. And then as you think about that, take a deep breath in. Deep breath out. Feet firmly planted on the ground. Spine straight. Chest open. You have full access to your airways. Another deep breath in. Deep breath out. Feel free to close your eyes to block out other stimulation if you'd like. Now, with that breath, as you breathe in as much air as you can. And then breathe out slowly, noticing any tension in your body as you breathe out, letting it go with that breath. Complete exhale. Now, next one is take your fingers, your index finger and your thumb, and put them together. Now, still feet firmly planted, spine straight, eyes closed, or if you're sitting, you can be in lotus position. Fingers with thumb and index finger together, eyes closed, make little circles with just enough tension to feel the ridges of the fingertips. The little circles like this. Don't worry about how fast or how slow, just enough tension to feel the ridges. Eyes closed. We'll do this for 10 seconds. If a thought comes in, just let it go. Perfectly natural. Thought comes in, let it go. Return your focus to the fingertips. Okay. And next, listen for the farthest away sound. So listen closely for the farthest away sound that you can hear and focus all your attention on that. Again, with eyes closed, if that helps. Listen to that sound. Now listen to the closest sound that you can hear. Could be your breathing, could be coffee brewing. Listen to that closest sound. Thought comes in, just let it pass. Focus only on the sound. And now, another deep breath in. Deep breath out. As you breathe in again, notice your chest expanding with that breath. As you let go, notice in your chest the sensation of it returning to a relaxed state. So now open your eyes, come back to present.
Wow.
What did you notice?
Well, I was presencing more and more and more and more and more, and my mind was slowing down more and more and more and more. And I'm now relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah. And the beautiful thing about that is that that only took maybe a minute.
Yeah.
And you can do that wherever you are. Let's say you're about to go into a meeting. You don't have to go to your corner of your office and meditate for 30 minutes. You can do a few of these reps and then you go into that meeting in this state, that calm, clarity. And even Shirzad talks about how he was going to give a TED talk. And the person, who he was being prepped by said, okay, things have been a little bit rocky. So, now when you go, you're going to really need to take us home and finish us strong. So there was already this pressure and he felt, oh my gosh, the pressure is really, really on. They're expecting me to bring this home and finish strong and make up for all these other speakers that, where it didn't go so well. And so, what did he do? He started doing these reps because he felt himself totally getting hijacked and nervous and shaky. And
Right.
so he just started doing PQ reps. And he said that, he had about 20 minutes and he, was doing them for 20 minutes. And he went on stage, was calm, clear-minded, collected. There was a problem with the slides and he was just able to be spontaneous and move right through that. Whereas otherwise, if he'd been in that state of oh my gosh, this has to be perfect. And then that happens, what do you think would have happened to him in that situation?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, or even in traffic, you're sitting in traffic and you're worked up, you can, do these types of reps. You're going to have a difficult phone call, do reps before the phone call, get into this calm state. It takes, 10 seconds per series. So it's great. And so what that does is it's quieting the mind, quieting the body. And the more that you do that, the more it's strengthening that mental muscle. And the more that you do that, the more you're able to have stimulus come in and go to the right rather than to the left. And the right regions of the brain, that's where you have access to the patient's curiosity, positivity, compassion, and laser focus.
Wonderful.
So it's really rewiring the more that you do that.
Laser focus, positive, compassion, all these wonderful qualities that we all need, to develop and master, right?
Right. Absolutely. So as soon as you notice, oh, this is bad, or oh no, this happened, or you label something as negative, do the PQ reps. And over and over and over again, it starts to strengthen that mental muscle. And it really, really makes a difference. Noticing, labeling, and then having that self-command, which is one of the other muscles, shifting to sage, which is the third muscle, all by means of these repetitions.
Mm-hmm. So I know you've been inspired by Shirzad, but also the body of the work that I love that you introduce into the world as well is how do we move from stress to success, right?
Yeah.
How from that space. And I know from my clients and in the business, in life, small companies, big companies, everybody right now is in that space when we really need to shift that energy from that stress and intensity and of our life, of our work, family, kids, homeschooling, we've been through a lot this year that we're talking about now. So we're all in this, right? So this wonderful work that you're introducing of shifted and moving from that stresses of life into the success of life, it's something that I've really got inspired with when it comes to you. So tell me a little bit more around that body of work. How do you move people from stress to success? What is necessary for us to consider? And what would you like to share with our audience around this?
Sure. Thank you. So with the stress, first, it starts with noticing what are the root sources of our stress, what's coming up. Oftentimes it's around maybe boundaries and not having clear boundaries, or it could be around expectations that are, unrealistic, overstretching. It could be around self-care. So it's really honing in on what are the root causes of that stress, because if we don't know it, then we're just treating symptoms. So we want to get to the root of it, to get to that core. And knowing
before you go, so how do we become aware of this? How do I, like I can be stressed out even though I'm a coach and I know the tools and techniques. How do I create this awareness so that I can understand what really creates my stress?
Right. Well, so the saboteurs that I mentioned, they are at the root of all sources of stress. And so they are ones like the hyperachiever, and all of these saboteurs are extensions of one's strengths. So the hyperachiever, that one is where there's a strong desire to succeed, to do things, to accomplish, to, have these meaningful experiences. So that drives success, which is terrific. Becomes saboteur when you're taking it to the extreme. So the saboteurs are one's strengths taken to the extreme. And so they say, hey, you know what? I need you to push yourself so you can be successful. And so they have you believe like the more that you push yourself, the more successful you're going to be. But think about pushing yourself when you're in that state of stress and anxiety, then that's going to compromise your sleep, the choices that you make in eating and well-being and your interactions socially. So instead of, believing that lie, that the harder you push yourself, the more successful you're going to be, then there's that shift of knowing like, actually, it is feeling less hijacked, more calm, coming from that place of more sageness that's going to get even more success. Yes, you can be successful with your hyperachiever, driving you and cracking the whip at you, but you're even more successful when you do it from a place of the patience, calmness, clarity, laser focus. So the program is all about helping people really connect with that part of themselves, know how to do it, go through practices together, discuss it, find out what are the root causes of your stress. It could be control. I've got to do everything on my own. No one knows how to do it better than me. It's got to be done right. That's also stickler too, comes in like this is the only way to do it, or it's my way or the highway. I have to, I've got to make sure that I'm involved with everything, or people are just going to, mess it up. Nothing's going to go right. Things will fall apart. I have to be the driver here. So there's that pressure. And actually it delivers the opposite, because people feel like you don't trust them. There's resentment, there's negativity, you compromise relationships. So in being able to notice, oh, this is happening, this is compromising me, then you're able to access ways to notice, quiet it, shift. And then not only do you have even more success, you're also a lot happier, a lot happier. Think about when you're in flow and you're just going with that and you're inspired and there's collaboration and there's inspiration and there's that, that focus and there's this excitement. You're even more successful because you're doing it with this aliveness and resonance and authenticity.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So you mentioned a few of the self-sabotagers. So you mentioned hyperachiever, stickler. What else do we have there?
Yes. There's a whole cast of characters and everyone has them, and they're all equal opportunity destroyers. So no one is better or worse than another. There's, the pleaser. So, a lot of people who are like in HR, then, they have a pleaser. They want to care for people. It's beautiful. They're kind, generous, giving people. And it becomes a saboteur when they're going like above and beyond and not respecting their own boundaries, saying yes to everything, worried about any kind of confrontation. So they'll just go along with things, even if they don't feel that that is necessarily the best thing. So again, they could have a vision for what success looks like and get derailed because they don't want to say no to the person that maybe wants to go a different direction. So they're not trusting their own voice and their own wisdom because they don't want to displease someone else that has a different opinion. So learning to say, hey, you know what, this is coming up for me. I'm going to just trust myself instead and go with this can lead to greater success because they are believing in what they have and having that boundary to say, no, I feel like this is the direction that we should go in, and trusting that and going with it. Not worried about compromising relationships, which in a way, so there's something too, is they think that, okay, by saying yes, I'm actually strengthening relationships. Well, if someone's always saying yes, others might be like, I don't know if I can trust this person. They say yes to everything. It's hard to believe them. They're almost too nice. They might be up to something. I'm not sure, about this person. Like maybe there's something devious going on because they're too nice. No one's that nice. So then there's mistrust there. So you get the opposite of what you're trying to get. That closeness you're going for actually becomes something different. Other saboteurs are the hyper rational, where you don't have access to compassion because it's all in your head. You're going through life with a hammer. I've got to fix this. I can fix that. Oh, there's that problem. Let me fix that. And so then again, that compromises success because people are like, I don't really feel heard. I don't feel seen. They just wanted to fix the problem, where they always know what to do. And they need to tell me how it should be done. There's the avoider. So the avoider will be like, oh, you know what? This doesn't seem like, it's going to work. I'm going to go do this other thing instead. And so then they're not going for the strategy. So success can, especially for executives, the strategy is big picture. And so an avoider might say like, ooh, that's a little bit daunting. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to manage some people and tell them what to do and let my controller run things and just avoid that, big picture, scary strategy session. Yeah. So, and then there's also restless. The restless is the one where it's like, oh, shiny object over there. Oh, shiny object over there. So they get distracted. They are never fully in the moment with anything, which also compromises success because they don't stay in the moment. They easily jump out of things and get derailed. So it's a whole cast of characters there.
I've done your assessment, and I loved it because it's always with all of the assessments. I think like I thought I'm not controller, definitely. I am not hyper rational. This is not what I am. I am emotional intelligence, and I'm not stickler at all. I thought, well, I am something kind of, I can be pleaser. I'm hyper achiever. Yes. And then the assessment came up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm hyper rational 7. I'm controller 8. I'm stickler 7. I'm higher achiever 6. I was like, no, you know what I mean? Such an interesting thing when you illuminate those blind spots that you have about yourself, because we all have this persona of what we believe we are, right?
Yes,
and then look into this illumination of our blind spot, that actually how we act in life. And if we don't become mindful, then we cannot transform, and we cannot really shift from that stressful situation to successful situation because we don't know ourselves. So for me personally, it was really eye-opening, to see where I am at this juncture and what do I need to work with, improve, become aware of, right?
Right. Absolutely. And it's so funny. I love your reaction because so many times, like, it's the controller that will be like, well, this can't be right. And they start to question it because they want to control the outcome. No, I determine the outcome. You don't tell me, I tell you.
Well, I'm not there. At least in my life, I managed to mature that I know, okay, I cannot control the outcome. I can just witness and become aware and be positively surprised, So I think that for the audience, we're going to give them the assessment link, right? It's free of charge in the link to this video, so you can do it because it's really empowering tool to really get to know yourself. And also, as Lisha beautifully said, to see how are you overextending yourself within these archetypes in order to sabotage your success, right? So if you're over living it, overdoing it, if you are, I like the example that you use, if you are a pleaser and you're genuine in your heart and you really, really want to help people, but you don't know how to set boundaries in your life, then this will work against you. And therefore, it will create a stressful situation instead of balanced success, when you can really support people in the best possible way if you're within the remits of balance of this archetype. So it's really, really important to understand yourself, right?
Yes, absolutely. The stickler is another one too, where, people think, okay, this needs to be just right, and I'll be more successful when everything is just precise and exact. And they spend an exorbitant amount of time on things where maybe it doesn't need to be just right, because really only 20% needs to be perfect. The 80%, good enough is good enough. So most of the things, like, what, it's good enough. If we're doing a presentation, we don't need to make it absolutely, absolutely perfect, because then we're not using our time for other things. that need our attention and focus, and therefore, again, compromising success, productivity, efficiency by, looking at the buckets and saying, okay, for this, is it good enough? Is good enough? Yes or no? Then we can really, have much more bandwidth and more energy. Like, how exhausting is it to have, I have that in me, that stickler, and it's exhausting. And so I've really been able to overcome it and be like, okay, this is good enough. Hit send, hit submit. And oh boy, it's, liberating.
And this is where I would love to kind of go towards the end of the show. So how do we create that transformation? So when you look into, if somebody who does the assessment comes to you and now, like myself, illuminates blind spots, he's fully aware and knows, or I know what I need to work with, what will be the next step in the evolution of through the coaching process so that people can really rebalance themselves within these archetypes and then live the best possible version of themselves? What would you do next with people?
So it's, again, the more awareness there is, the better. And then, it's strengthening the mental muscles by doing the reps. And it's looking at where do these situations come up? So, for everyone that can start to call it out and to recognize it, like, oh, this happens here. And some people might notice like, oh, at work, I have a controller and at home, I have a pleaser. And so, it's starting to like have that, oh, okay, I see it now. It's really pulling back, like pulling back the curtain, looking into the weeds. And, it's like when you're shopping for a new car and you're shopping for, let's say a red Lexus. And all of a sudden you start noticing, oh, look, there's a red Lexus. Red Lexuses are everywhere. I never noticed them before. So you learn about your saboteurs and you're like, oh yeah, there it is. It just showed up again. Oh, it popped up. It's like whack-a-mole game. You're like, oh, there it is. There it is. So it's that increased awareness of like, oh yeah, it's showing up in all these places. And then being able to make a choice. There's always that choice to say like, okay, I'm going to go with that and let that just, drive the bus. Or I'm going to say, you know what? I see you. And I knew you'd show up. I was waiting for you, stickler, telling me I need to spend another 10 minutes obsessing on this. I'm going to say no to that. You do your finger rubs, or you do, the auditory, the sensation of like, you could like do a PQ rub along your fingertips and gliding your hand along your palm. So doing that quiets everything. So then you can have access to sage and to be able to look at it from a different lens, to look at, okay, this bad situation, quote unquote, bad. What are the gifts and opportunities? That's the way of the sage, is looking at what are the gifts or opportunities here? Oh, this presentation bombed, rather than getting hijacked for hours, to be able to say, what are the opportunities? What are the gifts? What are the learnings? How can I use this to learn and to grow? And that really creates that evolution into having more of that sageness, to being more successful, to becoming more of who you want to be, who you would like to be, and maybe never knew was possible, to relieve so much of that stress and anxiety and frustration in your life, to be more resilient, to have stronger relationships, greater performance, and more happiness. Mm-hmm. Did that answer the question?
Yes. I'm sure. Yes. So this is the time for you to go to coachlisha.com and you can book basically the pre-assessment yourself. You can get pre-consultation for Lisha also when it comes to the results if you're uncertain or confused. So that's a great opportunity for our viewers and listeners to really benefit of your wisdom. Also coming up very soon on TNMCoaching.com, we have the live class around shift, moving from stress to success, that I highly recommend to you. I'm going to do it because now after the assessments, I'm doing this course for myself. I'm doing it. So everybody can do it as well. Please sign up. We're going to communicate this in our newsletters and social media. So Lisha is going to join us very soon to teach this course in full. So Lisha, any last thoughts, or how would you like to wrap this up for our audience?
Yeah. So for those that are curious now to find out like, oh, what are my saboteurs, and to, learn about them, to learn about the origins, then you can find the free assessment at positiveintelligence.com/assessments. That's positiveintelligence.com/assessments. TNM and I, we don't have any affiliation with them. There's nothing in it for us to encourage it. This is just something that I use in my practice that's highly effective. And that, TNM is also very gracious in letting me share because of how effective it is in recognizing saboteurs, moving through it, becoming more successful, creating that really, really powerful shift. So for those who take the assessment, as Zoran mentioned, you're welcome to then come to my website at coachlisha.com and click the link for a complimentary session where I can help you unpack your results and really do that deeper dive into, what is this about? How is it compromising me? What is the impact in my life? And how do I get to a different place? How do I strengthen my mental fitness and shift from stress to success? And yes, please join me in my program for even more good bits.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming up today. Thank you. We're super grateful to have you. Well, you wonderful, exuberant, positive, charismatic energy. So blessed with that. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and elevating us to the next level of ourselves. We all need to move away from stress. We all need to learn how to relate to stress in the most positive way, so to say, how to manage this internally, externally, to live successful, blessed, and balanced life. So thank you so much, Lisha. Once again, everybody else, thank you so much for tuning in, for listening, for being with us this week. We'll talk more next week. Bye for now.
Thank you.